On today's Advanced Adulting podcast, we're going to talk about making money. We're going to talk about side hustles, making some extra cash, extra income, a part-time job, a remote job. Basically, how can you get some extra cash in your pocket if you are older? Now, look, I hope to God you're independently wealthy. I hope that you have a steady job, and this is a non-issue for you. But for a lot of people in midlife and beyond, your 40s, 50s, 60s, the fact of the matter is, how we work, how we make money is changing dramatically and going to be fluid. And how do you do that? I mean, one, a lot of people are having to look at some sort of entrepreneurial endeavor, a side hustle, if you will. And that's what we're going to cover today. Now, there's so many things out there of what do I do? Do I go DoorDash? Do I get an Uber, drive Uber or whatever? We're not even talking about that. We're going to talk about something fun, really, truly fun, something unique, and something any of you can do if you've got a camera. And I'm not talking OnlyFans either. Yeah, nobody wants to see that. We're going to talk about how you, as an advanced adult, can become a true content creator and make money through social media. Now, before you sit there and go, oh my God, another freaking scam, or, it's all those kids on TikTok shaking their butt looking like a fool. Not at all. We're going to talk today about UGC. User-generated content. And it's a way for people like you and me who are a little older, got a few wrinkles, to make money by making social media content for major companies and who will pay you, whether you have a big audience or not. And they're going to pay you to sit there and talk about their product. Now, this is not the go get a TikTok shop and start selling mattress covers. We're talking about major companies who want to reach people like us, and they will pay you significant amounts of money to make a 60, 90-second video to talk about their product as a real person. I know it sounds crazy, but it works. Why? Because I do it, and our guest today is going to help show you how to do it as well. Megan Collier is not our typical demographic on Advanced Adulting. She's younger, but she also has one of the biggest audiences on TikTok, helping folks like us who are older learn how to make content that companies will buy. And you can become a true content creator. Now, that content creator word can be scary to a lot of people. I get it, because you're thinking, well, I don't have any followers. I am not a former fashion model. I don't know how to do any of this stuff. I can tell you, it really doesn't matter. Megan and I are going to have a conversation walking you through how to do this, what some of these things mean, how you can reach out to these companies, what some of these deals look like, and how you can do it very easily. This is going to be something valuable for you if you want to learn how you can make a sizable side income. I mean, it could be anywhere from $500 to $5,000 a month. And you might get some free products and some cash that's going to help you along. Check it out. I also want to thank our sponsor. Hey, by the way, I told you this stuff works, right? I want to thank our sponsor, Jubilee TV. If you have older parents, Jubilee TV is something you definitely need to know about. Whether they are across town or across the country, Jubilee TV allows you to interact with them through your TV set. You can control their remote and help them out through technology issues. You can get status checks and have direct calls with them. It's a great way to stay in touch and make your life and theirs easier and show you care. So check out Jubilee TV. Use code ADULTING. You get $25 off. With that, let's show you how this is done and how you can make an extra side hustle and become a true older content creator without having to shake your butt or look stupid online. With my guest, UGC and social media expert, Megan Collier. I'm Bradley Richardson, and this is Advanced Adulting. Megan Collier, welcome to Advanced Adulting.
Thank you for having me here. I'm excited.
This is good. This is good stuff. We were talking a little bit beforehand. I mean, you are you're not the typical demographic here.
No.
It's, when I say, grown ass adult, you're a grown ass adult, but I mean, you're not in your 40s, 50s or above. No. You're definitely younger, but I wanted to have you on because you have a very interesting take, product, and message for people my age, in your 50s and up. You've built a massive audience on TikTok and other social platforms, helping them make money. And how they do that is pretty unique. And that's what we're going to talk about today. For those of you joining us, is we're going to talk about um, this idea of how you can really make money on social media without having to shake your ass and do a stupid dance.
Absolutely. You
So
don't have to do that.
exactly, yeah. So, yeah, Megan, tell us a little bit about kind of you know, how you got into this.
Yeah.
I mean, and we'll talk about what UGC is in a minute, but to kind of give for people here the idea of what you do.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, I do UGC, make content for companies, but yeah, the whole, really serving a big audience of Gen Xers, baby boomers came about last year, a little less than a year ago. I was actually on a call with a brand that I was trying to convince to hire me to do some content for them. And I mentioned that my mom, who is 63, she was a big, like, loyal customer of theirs. And so they were like, oh, that would be amazing to have your mom on like one of the videos that you do for us about our shoes. And I'm like, I would guarantee she'd be down for that for sure. My mom and I are super close. And so sure enough she was, and they hired us. And I just kind of had an epiphany, not even right then, but maybe a month or so later after my mom and I had done that UGC deal together, that I just never saw anybody, definitely nobody my mom's age, or really maybe one person in their 50s, maybe a couple of people in their 40s doing content creation for brands. So that's kind of how it started.
Right. But for those of you watching here, we've mentioned a couple things. You've heard this term UGC, and we'll talk about that in a second of what it means. But the Cliff Notes version is it's content creation. We hear this word content creator and we think it means just like I said, just doing the stupid dance or something like that. But there are serious companies paying real dollars to people out there to work with them and create content. Tell people what UGC means and kind of what your take on how you explain content creation to folks, to old folks like me.
Yeah, for sure. So UGC stands for user generated content. So the way I like to explain it in a nutshell, UGC creators create content for companies, really of all types, and typically it's short videos talking about their products or services. And instead of you having to post it to your own account, typically, the companies really just need the content to use for their own purposes. So you're going to make the content, and then you're going to send it to the brand, and then they're going to take that, maybe use it as Instagram Reels or TikTok videos, or they're going to put money behind it and run as ads across social media. So that's really the simplest breakdown of what UGC.
Yeah. And I think that the interest, and for you all that know, I mean, I do a lot of this. I do. I mean, yes, I have sponsors for other things in social media and this podcast and other things like that. But UGC is an interesting deal because I guess it's the current day version of what an ad agency does. Of basically you're creating commercials. And instead of them having this big production team, it's you and your phone, and they're paying you to talk about whatever.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think it's something that I think most people, your average, every ordinary person is scrolling on social media, and they maybe have seen most likely like thousands of UGC style videos and ads, but they just don't know. Like when I started 2.5 years ago, I have actually been taught myself social media and was doing social media for a company when I heard about UGC, but I'd never heard of that term. So when I heard it, I was like, I just figured companies were mostly working with influencers, tons of followers, but UGC, it just makes sense because of the demand for content across so many industries and so many brands that need it. So it's really, I feel like it's kind of a relief for people to know that you don't have to be this crazy big influencer to work with all these brands and get paid to create content for them.
I think the things that I learned on this, I've been doing UGC stuff for a little over a year, and it was an education, and there's so many different aspects to it. And, my kids who are all, 20s and 30s were like, oh, people pay you a boatload to do this stuff. And I'm like, no. And again, it's very different than having like a sponsored type of podcast. But what I thought was interesting at first, my reluctance, and this is for a lot of people who are this age, I would see, there's a lot of women, especially on Instagram. Okay. A lot of women, doing fashion things or, very high profile type things. And I thought, well, sorry, I'm no male model. I mean, come on, really? And what I discovered was it's decidedly for lack of a better term, lowbrow, pretty bare bones. It's not the most glamorous thing. You can do it with your phone. You can do it for damn near any product. Tell me a little bit about that, about the types of companies and is it worked with a company? Is it worked with an agency? How's this all work?
Yeah. So, I mean, you can work with agencies, but really how I got started and how most people get started is, they learn about UGC, they create a portfolio. That word alone tends to freak people out, especially who are, maybe 40s, 50s, 60s. Like my mom, for example, who is now doing UGC, which has been great. She was like, I don't know how to make a website. I don't know how to do any of that stuff. It really is less scary than it sounds, but creating one central place, even just using Canva, which is super beginner friendly, and creating some content just so brands can get to know you better just in one central place, and using products that you already have around your home. It's really as simple as that. I always tell my story of using the cat treats that I give our 2 cats. Make 2 videos about that. I had a couple more about toys that we had bought for our 1-year-old son. And it doesn't have to be super complicated. Like you say, you get I use my iPhone. I have an expensive camera that I could very well use, but you don't have to. I only use my iPhone. Editing, honestly, is another scary word for people that have never had experience in this. But the more you do it, like anything else, it'll become easier. And I think people tend to, freak out in the beginning and are very like, oh my gosh, I can't do this. I'm not tech savvy. But once you start learning a little bit about it and the simple steps it takes, it becomes less and less scary and very doable for people.
Absolutely. I mean, I'll say this. I mean, I'll cut to the chase for people that are watching. They're like, hey, that sounds great. You're speaking a little Greek, but what type of money are we talking about? And all that. Here's the thing. This is the easiest thing I've ever done in my life. Okay. I mean, a trained chimp can do this. Actually, an untrained chimp can do this. It is, you'll make anywhere, depending on the company. Okay. Sometimes you'll get stuff. So, and it depends on what you want. Sometimes it's just like, oh, we want to send you such and such. Okay, cool. If it's something I really want and need, great. But otherwise, I want to get paid. So you'll get anywhere from, on the low end, $300, $500 to $2,500 to do a 30 to 90 second reel or video, which blows my mind. And you're talking about, just as you said, it's not, you hear the words like portfolio, you hear, which is intimidating. I got hung up for like a month thinking, oh my God, it has to be, and that's our old brains working. Oh, it has to be this professional thing. And this is what it has to be. And it's really pretty simple. And I think the other thing is that the time commitment, okay? Because you think, oh, well, I have to, I mean, it feels criminal saying this, okay? Some stuff takes a little bit of time. I can crank this out in 30 minutes.
Yeah, for sure. Yep.
I mean, what are you finding? Because you work with so many different people who not even pretty new to social media. So, walk me through that for the uninitiated, the person who's just busy looking at stuff on social media. How would they get started?
So one of the first things I always say, you could hear about UGC and I can explain it, but still getting that visual of knowing what you're going to be doing as a UGC creator and looking at some example videos of other people. That's what I did at the beginning. That's what I always recommend people to do. Viewing some UGC example videos, whether you look at somebody else's portfolio or just search it up on TikTok or Instagram, so many examples that you can see, just so you, again, can visually wrap your head around what you're going to be doing. And once you kind of see that, it's going to click a little bit more, I think. And then beyond that, right after that, I always recommend people making a portfolio. Like I mentioned, using products around their house, make, 4, 5 videos. Again, they're not, this is why I'm so passionate about it, because I think people are so scared. And I've kind of taken on this mission to kind of debunk or put people to ease that it really doesn't have to be scary, and that your first few videos, they might not be great. They might not be amazing. You might not feel super confident.
My first one was horrible.
Yeah, exactly. So is mine. And so that's just how it goes, though. So it's important to realize that and give yourself some grace, especially, and then to just keep practicing. If you, I'm constantly getting Amazon boxes, right? I could make a video about literally almost everything in my office here. So many things at my house, things that I'm getting for, our kids or whatever, anything really truly you can make a short video about it. And the more you do that, the more you'll get comfortable doing that. And so you're really going to start with 4 or 5 videos. And they're not going to be perfect.
And you're talking about like making like before anybody gives you anything.
Yes.
This is just, a practice,
For sure.
spec video of like, hey, here's, basically like a pretend video of, hey, I'm going to talk about, I love my Stanley Cup and Stanley Cup does blah, 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 blah.
Yep.
I mean, so you can get comfortable with it and something so you can at least show it. Is that what we're talking about?
Exactly. You said it exactly right. It's just so that you have like, you could reach out to a company and be like, hey, I'm a UGC creator, but what shows that you are a UGC creator? They want to see something that you have created just so they can, number one, also get to know you better, see if you're part of the demographic that they want to work with and have in their videos. And then just, to show, even if the videos are not fantastic, just to show some stuff that you've done, some content that you've created. And again, you don't have to have past experience doing this. You just have to create the videos.
Well, and these can come in so many segments. I mean, you're exactly right. These are things that ultimately people will pick you up and they will see it. Okay. But in the beginning, you don't know. And I use we're big dog people. Okay. So I use the pet space as one. So, there's a dog food that we liked. We changed it. And so we made a stupid little video about Moose, our pit bull, and I put it up. And, one of the big dog food brands is like, hey, we love this. We want to send your pup some stuff. And actually then they ask, what's your rate if we were to use that as a commercial? And I think that's if I'm going to dumb it down for anybody, basically you're doing homemade commercials for people that they'll buy. Yeah. It's really it.
Exactly.
And ultimately they'll reach out to you and, they'll tell you what they want or give you, hey, come up with a concept for X. And, I think that's the thing. What can people expect in terms of how long it takes to get something rolling? And then I want to talk about your thoughts on, outside of just creating the basics, how do you start really approaching people?
Yeah, for
sure. How do you get the business?
Yeah. So, okay, sorry. Ask the other question, the first question.
Well, yeah. Let's go with that. How do people, how do people get the business? Let's go with that. How do people, I've made my videos, great, but what do I do with it other than putting up a video about my cup and my dog here? I mean, how do I find the biz?
Yeah, for sure. So I always tell people, and I teach this, that, like I said, you're going to make those initial 4 or 5 videos using products that you already have. Put those in your portfolio, but also that is a perfect starting point for the companies you can start reaching out to. And I've done this myself. I reached out to the pet brand that I made an initial portfolio video about. They loved the videos, had no budget to hire me, but it kind of gave me that like, oh my gosh, okay, companies are looking for this kind of content. And so start there, make those videos, and then reach out, go to the websites of the brands that you made content about, find the email them and just say, hey, I'm a UGC creator. Here's the link to my portfolio. You'll see I've actually already made a video about your product. I've been using it for X amount of months or years. This is why I love it. I'd love to connect with you guys about creating more content or possibly you buying that video. So that has happened time and time again where companies are like, oh my gosh, this is already a video that's already been made. It's a good video talking about our product. Let's purchase this video and see if we can work with this UGC creator on maybe a long-term basis or do a couple more videos for us. So I think that's really the initial starting point of start there and then kind of rinse and repeat finding companies. And I could talk about all the ways you can connect with companies if you want.
Well, let's talk a little bit about that. Cause I mean, to me, I think, and again, I'm putting, I've experienced the multiple ways that it approaches, and we could talk about that in a second, but my background's as a headhunter, okay? As a recruiter. So it's, who do I contact? Who's my point of contact? You can say, oh, well, reach out to the company. Well, what are the titles I'm looking for? What's the best way? Is it email? Is it DM? How do I find the right person?
Yeah, for sure. So typically, I mean, it depends on the company, but if you go to a website of a company you want to reach out to, you want to pitch to, it's sometimes tricky to find their point of contact that you want to get in touch with. So if that's the case, if you truly cannot find it, like there's third-party software like hunter.io that you can pay for to get that information. if you don't want to do that, if you don't want to pay $60 a month, you can do two things. You can use the support email and then hope that it gets forwarded to the right person, which it typically does. Or you can go to the company's Instagram account. And this is how I've landed several UGC deals, is by going to the Instagram account of the brand, following them, sending them a quick DM saying, hey, I'm Megan. I love your products, or I've been seeing your ads a lot. I'm a UGC creator. I would love to be connected with the person in charge of hiring UGC creators. Would you mind pointing me in the right direction? And leaving it at that with a question, so that that person that's reading the DMs on Instagram obviously is not, the marketing director. Typically, it's not the owner. It's a customer service person. So they're just wanting to answer quick, simple questions. And usually they will respond with the email that you can then go take and email that person directly.
I think what's interesting is this really, in certain cases, depending on the size of the company, you can be dealing with even the owner or CEO or someone fairly high up. For the most part, this is something that falls under a marketing
for
umbrella.
Sure.
And that's the thing, is they call it everything different. I think the other thing that's really interesting for people to know that I didn't know was, we're talking about you creating. Sure. Creating can mean a lot of different things. Creating can mean, hey, I've had some where it's like, hey, Bradley, do what you want, but just make sure you say these 2 sentences. Just include these 2 sentences. That's it. But you have a blank check to do what you want. I have others. I did one yesterday, and it was so rigid. I mean, it sounds weird to get paid for reading something. Hopefully I can read and conjugate a verb, but it was, we just want you to read this. But it is, you send it, you read it, you send it off, and they say, well, you say this word differently, or you added this word, and you have to do it over and over again. Again, big problem, right? But the type of creation, I think for a lot of people our age, they may think, well, I'm introverted. I'm not creative. Well, it doesn't have to be. And you're right. You don't have to post this. There's stuff I've done that, I'll tell you a funny story about this. I got a phone call, this is about 2 months ago, from a guy I know who lives, halfway around the country. He goes, are you okay? I go, what do you mean? He goes, I just, I saw something on social media that, you were talking about like being sick and this disease that you had. Are you okay? And I go, oh. So I did a thing for Pfizer. Okay. And I did a thing for Pfizer about this vaccine, about having this disease thing that I'd read, and I never went on my socials, but they ran it all throughout, and this guy saw it somewhere, and he just thought, oh, well, I saw your face and I saw this. So
that can happen. That happens. Yeah. And and that's another thing is like you said, some like people come to me and they're like, I don't have a creative bone in my body though. Like I can't create the content. And to that, I always say, you maybe just don't know you have creativity in you. That happened to my mom. She started UGC, took my course, learned about it and everything, and realized how truly creative she is. She loves writing scripts now. She's so good at the UGC with literally zero background in this. And I think that happens to so many people. And it also happens where you sometimes work with a lot of companies that will give you a full script, that will tell you exactly what to do. And then other times it's like, okay, we have a bullet point list for you. Here's a little bit about our products, but just make sure you say these things like you said. So it's a really mixed bag of depending on what the brand needs and wants, but it's also great because then you get to learn an entire skill set that you maybe didn't even know existed and that you could become really, really good at.
Yeah. I think that's the thing is it's inconsistent. Yeah. It's inconsistent in a couple of different ways. It's inconsistent in what you're going to be doing, which is actually kind of fun. But I think the other thing is it's inconsistent in the money that you make from company to company. And I mean, I've done some where it's like, I might do 1 a month and I've done 10, and I think, could you do it as a full-time gig? Sure. But that's volume and you have to work it. But I think, again, the one way that you pitch what you do for folks our age is, this is an incredible side hustle. And I think that's the big thing. What do you see, and why do companies want people our age? Great question. We think everybody wants somebody hot, young, and shaking their butt. Why do they want old folks like us?
Several reasons. Number one is that, if you look at the data, Gen Xers specifically are the wealthiest generation. They have more purchasing power, which is what companies want because they want to show their products to people who can actually afford to buy them. Now, it's obviously not the case of every Gen Xer. A lot of people aren't where they want to be financially, but statistically, that's where it's at. So marketing wise, it makes sense for companies to advertise their products and their services to people that are Gen Xers and baby boomers. When it comes to just the fact that Gen Xers and baby boomers tend to be a little more authentic in the content they create, that's another thing, is that I've had so many students of mine that have learned UGC from me, and that's the thing that the brands come back and say to them in feedback. They're just like, I love your energy. I love the way that you speak about the product. It's just refreshing working with so many Gen Xers. So that's another thing. Just the fact that there's just not that many people doing this that are over the age of, in the Gen X or baby boomer range. And it makes it a unique thing. So I always tell people that, it is their superpower. If you are a Gen X or baby boomer, it really is your superpower because there's less competition. Brands want to work with you. And it also just makes sense. Like I always give the example of imagine somebody, mid 50s scrolling on Instagram and they're just keep seeing ads with somebody that's like in their 20s. It just will not resonate with them. They're going to be turned off by it. They're going to think the product's not for them. And the company's going to lose out on marketing dollars. So it makes sense for companies to want to hire people in that same demographic that they're really trying to reach.
I couldn't agree more. I think that's what I found is, look, we're a fairly cynical generation anyway. And it's everybody's tuned out to marketing right now. So when you see someone who looks like you in anything, I mean, in any diverse area, but in this one where it's age, you go, okay, I at least can relate to that person. And it's that being yourself. Mm-hmm. That is really it. Doesn't have to, I say it doesn't have to be slick and polished. It doesn't have to be like, hey, I'm an actor. It's just like, do you? Just be honest. And that's what people gravitate towards for people our age. The other thing is this that I think is interesting, and I'm sure you've experienced this too with people. I was on trading text about 2 weeks ago with the CEO of one of the big agencies, okay, one of the big influencer agencies. And she was talking about, I'm not bagging on you young folks now, but she was just because, had some, a couple of campaigns and some folks acted unprofessionally and just missed deadlines and ghosted. And the conversation turned to the professionalism of dealing with folks who are older, folks who are, 40s, 50s, 60s, who realize, hey, a deadline means a deadline. Hey, this is a business. Hey, just do what you say you're going to do. Hey, show up professionally. And I think that, look, that's a good message for anything and anything you do. So many people, the bar is so low for so many people. All you have to do is just show up here and you're so far above everything else. But it is, I think that's the other thing too, is I've experienced in the people that I work with in doing this type of work, they're your age. I mean, most everybody I deal with in the agencies of the companies are, the 20s and 30s. That's it. Unless I'm dealing with an owner of a company or something.
Yeah. No, I'm glad you brought the professionalism up. That is another thing that, I should talk about that more just in the content I do, because that really is so huge. Companies want to work with somebody who is responsive, who is professional, who is told a deadline and actually sends the content. And that is what I teach people. And the reason also for that is that you're opening up this relationship with the company. If you are on time, if you're submitting content, if you're professional, if you're responding to emails, they're having a really great experience with you as the content creator, and they're going to want to work with you again, which is going to put more dollars into your bank account. So you can't go wrong. And the fact that most Gen Xers, not everybody, Gen Xers, baby boomers are more professional and have those habits already because of the work they've done in the past for their entire life. It's just is another advantage, I think, to start doing this.
Absolutely. And it's the easier you can make their life, whether it's an agency, whether it's anybody, it is. And it's funny, sometimes it's a one and done. You'll just do one thing for somebody, but there are a couple of companies out there I've done 5 or 6 things for, You know, they come to me every couple of months. It's like, okay, easy, because it's just like clockwork, and you turn it around. And when I say turn it around, this is what I want people to understand, okay? This is, and the writing the script, okay? Because that could be an intimidating thing. Oh, a script. A script in this world is 2 paragraphs, okay? Can you write 2 paragraphs? Okay, that's it. Because you think about that. If you're going to make a 30 to 90 second video, that, it's not a lot of time. And really, it's pretty much 1 paragraph, 2 paragraphs max. You're not writing a novel here. And then you read it, or you speak it, and that's it. And so I just think it's an amazing side hustle for so many folks. Hey, we'll get back to this in just a second. But first, do you have older parents? Whether you care for them across town or across the country, you need to know about Jubilee TV. It's a great way to be able to stay in touch with your mom or dad, to help them out with any crazy technology and remote issues, but also is a great way to keep track of them and to communicate with them through your TV, regardless of location. Look, it's another way to show that you care and to give them and you some peace of mind. Check them out at Get Jubilee TV and use code ADULTING at checkout for $25 off. It's definitely worth it, and we're happy to have them as a sponsor of Advanced Adulting and the Advanced Adulting podcast. Now, let's get back to it. We talked about the portfolio and all, but I mean, are there any particular industries or any particular things that you see are doing better than others, or things that are hard to break into?
When I started, I figured I would be doing, a lot of people think about niches and like what I need to niche down in. And I think that there's a place maybe for that, but to be open to a lot of different industries that maybe you've never even thought of before, or maybe you've never even used their products, I think is a really, really valuable thing for new UGC creators. The one surprising thing for me when I got started is the first company that hired me was an app company, which I was not expecting, didn't even know really that apps were doing UGC. But the great thing about that, if anybody listening does want to kind of venture into the whole app software thing, is that you don't need to get a physical product. It's not a physical product that they need to send to you. You're going to wait to create the content, and there's going to be that aspect of it. And I also find that those videos tend to be a little easier to create because you don't have to get as many shots using a physical product. So that's something to keep in mind. Another thing is like that's also really helpful for people that maybe are not in the States, that maybe have issues with companies shipping them physical products. Anybody, I feel like, in my personal opinion, can do this all over the world if you're willing to just learn UGC, especially for app software service companies. So yeah, that's what I'll say about that. But I think that so many people, if you're wanting to get ideas, because I get that a lot, is that people are like, I want to do this. I'm just drawing a blank on the companies that I could possibly create UGC for. And I just posted a video about this explaining it, but one of the best ways to get ideas, to at least brainstorm and get it, a dozen companies that you could reach out to, is by going to Instagram and paying attention to the ads you're seeing. Because Instagram, Facebook, Meta, they stock everything we do, right? They know everything about us. If we're married, single, own a home, how much money we make. They know what we like and what we don't like. So the ads you're seeing while scrolling for 20 minutes on Instagram can be the perfect place to start to get ideas of the companies you could start to reach out to.
Absolutely. I mean, the thing, and I do that. I mean, I stalk it like a bad high school girlfriend. I mean, it's just, if you know that if they have a sponsored post, they're paying somebody for that. That's what that means. That's what that means. Anytime you see sponsored post or in partnership with, they're paying somebody to do that. So does that mean that, oh my God, that's the only person they're going to work with? No, they work with you. Look, they're working with a boatload of people, and you can be one of them, and that's it. And I think that's an important thing. And to your point on, it's truly a global deal. Just even this morning's interesting. So I'm in California, so I wake up, way early to do stuff. But I'm dealing with a company in Australia right now. Okay. So I've done things with people in Israel and the UK, and it's just, this truly is, there are no boundaries. Yes. Okay. It is borderless, and you can do that. They just want they want you're doing a lot of the work for them, but it's not heavy
Yeah.
lifting. And I think that's an important thing, because people, again, people who are, Gen X and early boomers, it's the thinking of my skills. Oh, what do I do? What am I qualified to do? Are you qualified to open your mouth to talk about a product that you like? It starts with
Yeah,
that.
exactly.
It's not rocket
Exactly.
science. Tell me your thoughts. Okay, I'm gonna, we're gonna take this up another level here, and for those of you that are watching, I'll put all the info in the notes there, so you can reach Megan. I mean, you got to see her. I see you a lot on TikTok, but I don't know what other your big platform is. But I mean, you got to catch her live. Okay, I mean, she does a boatload of these. She gives a ton of value, a ton of info, and she also has a course that helps people do it. So if you are just starting from square one, it's a great resource. But we're gonna take it up a notch. Tell me your thoughts on the agencies and the platforms that are out there, because there's a lot of different platforms that you can sign up for as a creator, and basically almost like a job board in a way, and things come to you. How do you feel about those versus reaching out to agencies directly?
Yeah. So and for anybody that is just hearing about this for the first time, it can be a little bit overwhelming just because UGC is in such crazy high demand, and there's a ton of companies that now allocate a massive part of their marketing budget to hiring UGC creators. It means that there's been an increase in apps, platforms, agencies that have popped up with the goal of hiring UGC creators. So it can be overwhelming, but I think that I still, as a UGC creator, my favorite way to connect with brands is directly reaching out to them. I have been on some platforms. I've worked with, agencies that kind of give me work sometimes, but I still love that connection with brands. I've even, if I really want to work with a brand, I'll send them a Loom video. I'll send them a personalized video pitching directly to them, because nobody else.
I do the same thing.
Nobody does that.
Yeah. All about Loom.
It's just that extra effort. But I think in terms of platforms, I typically tell people, number one, don't get overwhelmed by all the options. Choose a few. Maybe download the Billo or B-roll app on your phone. See what's there. Maybe apply to a couple. A platform like Brands Meet Creators is a good starting point, just because those companies listed there are actively searching for UGC creators. Not every single time that you email a company, it's not going to always be the perfect timing for them. They may be like, sorry, like our budget this quarter is a little lower than usual. We can't hire you right now. And that's okay. It's just a numbers game like anything else. But with the platforms, I think it's important to start on a couple, especially if you don't have a ton of time. I work with a lot of people that teach a lot of people that, are working a full-time demanding job that maybe don't have an extra 1 to 2 hours a day on top of everything else to directly pitch to companies, find the best email, find the brands themselves. So I think starting there and building relationships with brands via apps or some platforms is a really, really good starting point, but not getting stuck in that. And the only reason for that is not every time, but sometimes on those platforms and apps, they tend to be a little bit lower paying, just because everybody's like, oh, I'll join this app and it's going to be, it's going to be flooded. So I guess doing maybe a couple deals like that just to get your feet wet, get more comfortable, especially if you're just kind of worried about the whole process and your brand spanking new to content creation, could be a really great thing to do at the beginning, but not getting stuck in that only platform thing and really directly reaching out to brands and building those long-term relationships.
I think that's great advice. The way I equate it is, if you only post your job on LinkedIn or post your resume on LinkedIn or Indeed or something like that and think you're going to get a job that way, you might. Chances are you're not. You're lucky if you do, because you're going to have to take it, in your own hands. And it's the same thing with this. I mean, I work with some of the platforms. I work with some of the agencies. I do a lot directly, and it's the case with anything. You need multiple touch points on this. And what I'd found with I'm very fortunate because I've got a big following across different platforms, but a lot of people don't. Some of the agencies or platforms, they require or ask for you to have X following. Or some brands just want, hey, we want you. The other thing is some people, and this is interesting for folks, some brands like some platforms better than others. And what I mean is there's some people that say, hey, I only want to put this on YouTube, or I only want to deal with TikTok, or I only want to do with whatever it is. So that's something to be, just because you have a big audience or a small audience, it doesn't really matter. It's where they want to hit.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, every brand has such a, they could be across all platforms, but they could also do exactly what you say. They could be focusing on TikTok this quarter, maybe Instagram next quarter. So it really just depends. And I think that a lot of people are so used to the influencer world. Like you have a good following. I have a good following, but still, even for me, like I've gotten some brands reach out to me and mention my followers, but really it's just the content that they need. They just need content to keep up with the social media demand for all the content they need to post on social media. So that really is, I think, important for people to understand, because everyone in the past however many years has been so used to the influencer world and thinking that you do need a ton of followers. Most companies that need the content from you aren't gonna be swayed by your followers. It could help maybe, but it really is not gonna make or break your success with the UGC.
Absolutely. I mean, it depends on the company. I mean, I have some that, because of the demographics of mine, and if you do have a decent following, hell, even if you have 1,000 people that, or 500, whatever, you can go into TikTok, you can go into Instagram, you can go into YouTube and look at the analytics. And it sounds complicated too. It's not. All that means is how many men, how many women, where are they located, what are their ages? It breaks all that down. And, that's the stuff that helps people that are going to pay you, because they're like, hey, I really want to reach Bradley. I know you have 85% of your people are between 45 and 65. Yep. I want to reach all these folks. Okay, cool. You want to reach young folks? I'm not your guy, but they're not going to hit you for that.
Exactly.
So I want to talk about two other things that I think are going to be really important to people because, well, one, they're important and they can be intimidating or scary. Let's talk about the negotiating piece. Let's talk about again, we're here to talk about money, about making money. Okay. If you want to do this for ego, that's cool. Or you want to do it for free product? Okay, cool. You're going to get a lot of crap sent your way too. A lot of garbage stuff you don't want. But if this is about really making money, talk to me about negotiating and talk to me about some of the rates and what that might look like, what someone can expect.
Yeah, for sure. So, obviously the rates are going to fluctuate depending on the brand. There's so many variables, but first starting out, I always tell people start around about the $200 range, just to have that in your mind, so that if a company does reach out, you kind of have like, okay, $200 for a video. That way, you know what to kind of expect. And if they lowball you like 25, $50, you're like, okay, I should be worth a little bit more than that. So it's kind of like in the back of your head, know that at least about $200. But also,
I want to interrupt you right there, because I think it's really important, because I mean that's a part of it right there. This is your time. It may not take a lot of time, but here's the thing. At first you're going to be so giddy because someone asked you, and you're going to think, oh my God. But if they say, well, we only want to give you product for this, make sure you want the product. Okay. I've done things where I don't take money, because you know what? Hey, if they want to feed my dog and save me a few $100 a month, awesome. I'll do that all day long. But if it's something I'm like, I don't care, I don't need really, okay, it's about the cash. Sorry, it's true. And then it's a matter of, no, I'm not doing this for, look, the T-Mobile doesn't take, my $25 and goodwill on this. So, I agree with you. I mean, 200's low. And that, for those of you starting out, you're thinking, I'd be happy for anything. But realistically, I think 200 to 300 is a good starting place, because it doesn't scare anybody. If they're not going to pay you that, they're not going to do shit. And it's a good number. You can go up beyond that, but I think that's a great jumping off point.
Yeah, no, I agree. And it really does come down to your time, because just like you said, there really is like no better feeling in this space that I feel like getting your first UGC deal, especially if you're just starting out. It's the first time you've ever had experience with this, but you also you want to factor in your time. Like, my mom did a UGC deal just a couple weeks ago, and the company completely lowballed her. She was like, oh, whatever, I can do it. And now they're just like kind of refusing to even pay her like $50 for a bunch of content that took her a long time to do. She doesn't have time for that. Like, it's just not fair. And thinking about that before you even take on your first UGC deal is so, so important, because your time is valuable. So I think that's one thing. And then another thing is, I always recommend not putting your rates in your portfolio, just because you could lose out on some money. If a company has a $500 per video rate, their budget that they're wanting to and willing to pay you, and then they go to your portfolio, you've got $200 listed, you're going to lose out on $300. So just, that's part of the negotiation process of this, is knowing that companies, they have a number in mind typically, but it's like anything else. You can negotiate, you can ask them what their budget is. There's so many ways to do it, but also just knowing, okay, if this company's reaching out to me, they're advertising on social media, they're clearly working with other UGC creators, they've got some money to spend, and there's no reason why you shouldn't get a chunk of that.
Absolutely. Hey, give me an idea what your budget is.
Yep.
Okay. Because they're going to ask you, what's your rate for?
Mhm.
Okay. Oh, okay. And I'm a negotiator for a living, and I've screwed the pooch on this. I mean, and but hey, give me an idea what you're thinking. Okay. Now, after a certain point, you can also go, look at the scope, look at the company, and go, hey, look, I'm not going to do it for less than X. Okay. That's it. Now, again, that can be all over the map too. I think the ranges that I think of are going to be in that 500 to 2,500 range. Again, there can go way beyond it, but I think those are safe numbers, for somebody, depending on the company or whatever it is. I want you to talk about, because it's not just the rate, is it? What other things when someone, because they'll start throwing out crazy terms and you're like, oh, okay, I'll do whatever. What types of things do they negotiate and can you ask for? It's not just, hey, we're going to pay you $500 for a reel.
Yeah, for sure. One of the biggest terms to be aware of is usage rights. So if a company comes to you and they tell you clearly that they want to, even if they want to post it as an Instagram reel, they also are wanting to run it as an ad across, say, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok, then comes into play the usage rights. And there's a lot of, different, everyone will tell you a different opinion on this. For me in the beginning, I was like, I just want companies to work with me. I just want them to say yes to me. I'm not even going to charge them these usage rights that some people are talking about. Then I realized, okay, this could be a big increase in my income, charging for usage rights. So basically what usage rights mean is that if a company is going to take the content you create for them and they're going to run it as ads across social media, they technically need the legal rights to do that. So you can charge an additional fee for those usage rights. So for example, if a company is, coming to you, they want one video they're going to run as ads across Instagram and Facebook, and you're charging $500, you could add on another $500 for 60 days of usage, or the number is really just dependent, but that's really what it comes down to. So knowing what that means, and when a company does want to run it as an ad, the usage rights will come into play. Another thing to keep in mind is that a lot of companies don't want to deal with the legalities of that. So they don't want to say, okay, we're going to pay you, we were going to run it for 60 days. A lot of companies don't want to keep track of that and have to shut off the ad after 60 days. So what some companies will do is they'll try to get the content in perpetuity. So to basically own that content outright, to run it as long as they possibly want. So you could, for that, you still should be charging for that, right? If a company wants to do that, I will charge them usually way more than the actual video I'm creating to be able to have those rights to run it as ads for however long they want.
Absolutely. So yeah, the usage rights are an interesting thing. I mean, they can be all over the map. I mean, the things I've seen and used on that are generally 20% for 30 days to, 90 days or more. The other thing is, oftentimes people will approach and say, hey, I want to run this on Instagram. Great. Then they'll say, what if we want to do it for TikTok as well? Okay, well, that's totally separate. You treat that like a separate deal almost. I mean, you can, however you want to do it, but those are how things kind of come about. It's not just a grab bag of, we're going to put it everywhere.
Yeah. And it should be clearly stated. And that's what I always like to tell people, because somebody listening to this who's, again, brand new to this, it can sound like a totally different language, but you'll get more used to this. And another thing to keep in mind that I think a lot of people don't realize is that when you're talking to these companies, it sounds all intimidating, brand deals and this and that, usage rights. These are just other human beings on the other side of the screen doing their job. So if there is ever something that you feel confused about, or that's not clearly stated in the email communication that you're, going through with this brand that you're trying to work with, just ask them, just straight up ask them, okay, I'm a little bit confused about this. Can you please provide some clarity on this? And I promise you, most of the time they will be so gracious and nice and just answer the question for you.
Yeah. I have never run anybody that's
Yeah.
jerk on this. I've run into a few uh, more on the agency side that were a little unprofessional. I'm amazed. Here's the thing, folks. I am stunned. Well, you said earlier it's inconsistent. It is, but for the most part, this is a quick turnaround. I mean, usually someone will contact you and say, I've had it. Hey, we need this in 48 hours. Usually you've got about a week or 2 weeks to turn something around, and they might, great, we'll do that. And you have one edit. But for the most, and I've had some, the ones that I'm dealing with a couple that, okay, it takes like 6 weeks, 8 weeks to pay in the butt. Okay. But that's more of an anomaly. I think the other interesting thing is in getting paid. It's all over the map. I mean, some people will pay. I've had things where, hey, Bradley, the moment you post it, boom, 10 minutes later, your Venmo, your PayPal, it's hit. And then others, it's like, oh, it's 30 days. Okay. So it's just like any other business. I don't want to keep you much longer, but this is good, important stuff. Let's talk about scams. Okay. Let's talk about just scammers. Because once you get into this, once you kind of open this door and someone gets your name, you're going to start getting a bunch of garbage. You're going to get some good stuff. And how do you tell what's real, what's not, and what the scams are and things to avoid out there? Because I know for a lot of people, that is something. I mean, there's a lot of people who are our age, look, you're very cognizant of being scammed. And so what should you look for? What should you avoid?
For sure. So one of the first top of mind things is that if a company's reaching out to you via email and they're emailing you about a collaboration and the email is coming from a Gmail account, that's something to keep an eye out for. Usually, it's not going to be 100%, but usually it's a scam if it's from a Gmail account just because it's not coming from the company. So that's like an automatic red flag. If you go and you read, like I have so many students of mine that post these emails that they get from companies with these incredible opportunities. And it's like, we'll pay you $5,000 a month for, 20 video. It sounds too good to be true. If it sounds too good to be true, 9 times out of 10, it is going to be way too good to be true. So keep that in mind. It can be a little, you get excited about things. So it can be, you get all up in your emotions, and it's important to realize that there are scams out there. And, who knows exactly how these companies go about scamming people exactly. Do they want your bank account information? Do they want whatever? But there are scams out there to be aware of. So email, too good to be true. And then if somebody is like calling you like dear or honey, this is the thing that happens all the time. Hi, honey, like it's for whatever reason. That's like scream scam. It sounds weird, but
it's no different than the dating scams out there. Okay. I'm sorry. Brad Pitt doesn't want to go out with you. Okay. If it sounds that good, you're just like, oh, and Brad Pitt suddenly can't speak English. Yeah, exactly. There's a problem. Yeah,
exactly. And there's just like, it seems like, common sense stuff, but it's important to be aware of that. But I think the most important thing is to realize that Google is your friend when you're doing this. If a company reaches out to you, or say it's like, hey, I'm working on behalf of blank agency, go and do some research. Like there's only good things that can come from digging a little bit further, just taking that extra 10, 15 minutes to Google the company that's reaching out to you supposedly, maybe even looking on LinkedIn. I've had students of mine that somebody from X company is reaching out, and then they look them up on LinkedIn, and that person's not even affiliated with that company. So doing a little bit of research is really going to go a long way when it comes to maybe not feeling right about something and just going with your gut. That's always what just go with your gut.
Yeah. I mean, it's your gut and it's the research. And I couldn't agree more on the LinkedIn thing, the Google thing. Yeah. Someone may not be with that particular. They may be representing a brand. That's entirely legit. If they're with an agency or something like that, completely legit. But, and this is a little more of an advanced thing. Have you used that FUPay or FYPM?
I haven't, but I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
It's pretty cool. Okay. I was intrigued because I thought, what a ballsy title. And then I went in, and what it is, it's almost like a Yelp for these types of things. So basically, it's a database. Now, you can either get free access if you've done something and you give a review on a company that you've worked for, they give it to you for free, or you pay monthly, weekly, whatever. And it will give you people who worked with these companies or agencies their review of, hey, it was a great experience. They paid on time. This was fantastic. Or it was like, oh my God, these guys suck and it was a horrible experience. I mean, so just there's so many resources out there to do this. So that's good. I just, again, and for anybody that's watching this and coming in late, the whole idea behind this is this is an additional revenue. This is a great additional revenue stream for people, for anybody, but especially for people who are older. And Megan does such a great job being such a great advocate for people our age, and knowing that you can use social media to really be a content creator, that it is not an intimidating thing. You don't have to be good looking, as I'm proof. I mean, you can do it just by being honest and with your phone and no other equipment. And, that's a good thing for a lot of people out there to know there's another avenue available to them. So, Megan, thank you so much. And again, you have a fantastic course out there for people. That's kind of a crash course on how to do this, and cover some of the things we talked about, but I know a lot more, and everything else that you do on TikTok. And again, I appreciate you helping us out here.
Oh my gosh, of course. It was my pleasure. And I just want to, just one last thing is just, again, remind people that, if you have previously thought that your age would be a negative factor to you getting into the content creation world, I promise you it will not be a negative thing. It will be a positive thing. It will be to your benefit, and that you're not too old to do this. And you're definitely more than capable to figure this out, even if it does sound intimidating and scary. You can figure it out. And that's what I like to tell people is like, a year from now, you could be doing things you never even knew existed, and you could have this whole list of skills that you didn't even know you could take on and kind of master. So it's an exciting time. It's an exciting time for sure.